It had been a whirlwind of a week, filled with late-night packing, early morning calls, and a constant sense of urgency. My husband, Jason, had been tirelessly coordinating with moving companies, sorting through decades of his parents' memories. After living in the same house for over 40 years, his parents were finally moving to a smaller, more manageable place closer to us. On this particular morning, Jason looked more exhausted than usual. His dark hair was disheveled, and there were faint circles under his eyes from sleepless nights. As he sipped his coffee, he looked at me with a hint of hope. "Did my parents' stuff arrive?" he asked, his voice a mix of weariness and anticipation. I set my own coffee down and took a deep breath. "Yes, everything arrived late last night." Relief washed over his face, and he leaned back in his chair, finally allowing himself a moment to relax. "Thank God," he muttered. I could see the tension leaving his shoulders, and I knew how much this move meant to him. His parents had been reluctant to leave their home, the place where they had raised Jason and his sister, the house filled with cherished memories and countless family gatherings. "They're going to be okay, Jason," I said softly, reaching out to hold his hand. "They're excited to be closer to us and the kids, and we'll make new memories here." He squeezed my hand and smiled. "I know, it's a big change for them, and for us." We spent the rest of the morning unpacking boxes, sorting through items, and deciding where everything should go in his parents' new apartment. Each box held a piece of their history: old photo albums, hand-sewn quilts, vintage kitchenware, and stacks of letters tied with ribbon. As we unpacked, I came across a small, ornate box. Inside were a collection of trinkets and keepsakes, each with a story of its own. There was a delicate locket that Jason's mother, Margaret, had worn on her wedding day, and a set of cufflinks that had belonged to his father, Henry. Jason picked up the locket and smiled wistfully. "I remember her wearing this at every special occasion. She used to say it brought her luck." I nodded, understanding the sentimental value these items held. "We'll make sure she has a special place for it here." By the time his parents arrived later that afternoon, the apartment was starting to feel more like a home. Margaret and Henry walked through the door, their faces lighting up with surprise and gratitude. "Oh, you two have done so much already," Margaret said, her eyes welling up with tears. "Thank you." Henry, a man of few words, simply hugged Jason tightly. "It's good to be here, son." We spent the evening reminiscing, sharing stories, and laughing over old memories. The apartment, though new and unfamiliar, quickly filled with the warmth of family and love. The children ran around, exploring every nook and cranny, their laughter echoing through the rooms. As the night drew to a close, Jason and I sat on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. The stars twinkled above, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the trees below. "Today was a good day," Jason said, his voice content. "It was," I agreed, leaning my head on his shoulder, "and tomorrow will be even better." The weeks following the move were a blend of settling in and adjusting to new routines. Jason's parents, Margaret and Henry, gradually began to find comfort in their new home. Margaret joined a local gardening club, finding joy in tending to the small balcony garden that Jason and I had set up for her. Henry found camaraderie in a nearby community center, where he could play chess and share stories with other retirees. One Saturday afternoon, while Jason was at work and the kids were playing at a friend's house, I decided to visit Margaret. As I knocked on the door, I could hear the faint sound of classical music playing from inside. Margaret opened the door, her face lighting up when she saw me. "Come in, dear," she said warmly. "I was just making some tea." I followed her into the cozy kitchen, where the aroma of freshly baked cookies greeted me. Margaret had always been an excellent baker, and it was clear that she hadn't lost her touch. She poured us each a cup of tea and motioned for me to sit at the table. "How are you settling in?" I asked, taking a sip of the fragrant tea. "Oh, we're doing quite well," she replied, her eyes twinkling. "It's different, but it's nice. I love being able to see the grandkids so often, and Henry has made some good friends at the community center." We chatted for a while, sharing updates and stories. Margaret told me about the new friends she had made and the various activities she was involved in. It was heartening to see her so happy and engaged. As I was getting ready to leave, Margaret took my hand. "Thank you for everything, dear. You've made this transition so much easier for us." I squeezed her hand and smiled. "We're just glad to have you close by, and remember, if you ever need anything, we're just a phone call away." Back at home, Jason was sitting in the living room, sorting through a box of old photos. He looked up as I walked in and smiled. "How are they doing?" he asked. "Really well," I replied, sitting down beside him. "Your mom seems so happy. She's made a lot of new friends and is keeping busy." He nodded, a look of contentment on his face. "That's good to hear." We spent the rest of the evening going through the photos, reminiscing about old times and laughing at the memories captured in each picture. There were photos from Jason's childhood, family vacations, and holidays spent together. Each photo told a story, a moment frozen in time. As we looked through the photos, one picture in particular caught my eye. It was a photo of Jason's parents on their wedding day, standing in front of the church, looking young and full of hope. They were holding hands, their smiles radiating happiness. "They look so happy," I said softly. "They were," Jason replied. "They had a lot of good years together." I leaned my head on his shoulder and sighed. "I hope we have as many good years as they did." Jason wrapped his arm around me and kissed the top of my head. "We will," he said confidently, "and we'll make our own memories, just like they did." The seasons changed, and with each passing month, Margaret and Henry became more integrated into their new community. They hosted family gatherings in their cozy apartment, filling the space with laughter and love. The children loved visiting their grandparents, always eager to hear stories and share their latest adventures. One sunny afternoon, we decided to take a family trip to the park. Margaret and Henry joined us, and we spent the day playing games, having a picnic, and enjoying each other's company. The park was bustling with activity, children running around, couples strolling hand in hand, and families enjoying the warm weather. As the day drew to a close, we sat on a blanket, watching the sun set over the horizon. The sky was painted with hues of orange and pink, casting a warm glow over everything. Margaret and Henry sat side by side, holding hands, their faces reflecting the contentment of a day well spent. Jason looked at me and smiled. "This is what it's all about," he said. "Family, love, and making memories together." I nodded in agreement, feeling a sense of peace and happiness. "Yes, it is." We sat there in comfortable silence, watching as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden light over the park. In that moment, surrounded by the people we loved, I knew that no matter what changes came our way, we would face them together, as a family. And that was all that mattered. As we packed up our things and headed home, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the journey we had been on. It hadn't always been easy, but it had brought us closer together and strengthened our bonds. And I knew that no matter where life took us, we would always have each other. Back at the apartment, Jason and I tucked the children into bed, their sleepy faces filled with contentment from the day's adventures. We stood in the doorway for a moment, watching them sleep, before heading to our own room. As we lay in bed, Jason took my hand and held it tightly. "Thank you for everything," he said softly. "For being there, for supporting me, and for helping my parents adjust to their new life." I squeezed his hand and smiled. "We're in this together, remember? And I wouldn't have it any other way." He kissed me gently, and we settled into a comfortable silence, the events of the day replaying in our minds. As I drifted off to sleep, I felt a deep sense of contentment and gratitude. We had faced challenges and changes, but we had done it together, with love and support. And that was all we needed to continue making beautiful memories, one day at a time. In Together Through Change, A Family's Journey. Follow the heartfelt story of Jason and his wife as they navigate the emotional and physical challenges of moving Jason's elderly parents to a new home closer to their family. Amidst the chaos of packing and unpacking, they discover the true meaning of family, love, and resilience. As they help Margaret and Henry settle into their new apartment, the couple reflects on the cherished memories of the past and looks forward to creating new ones. This touching narrative highlights the power of togetherness and the beauty of embracing change with open hearts.